Hexagram 30. Attaining clarity. Let's pull this bad boy up. Here we go. Okay. Attaining clarity. The judgment. Firm attachment to what is correct brings success. Care of the cow brings good fortune. The sage shows the theme of this hexagram to be the cosmic principle of clarity as a characteristic feature of cosmic logic. Like all cosmic principles that form harmony, clarity is attained through a combination of thinking and feeling. It cannot be attained through mental effort alone. Clarity is attained through connecting with our inner truth with the help of the sage. The cosmic logic within a situation is most perceptible after the fact. To attain clarity, all of a person's inner senses are involved. The result is a consensus of these senses, which in their aggregate form his common sense. However, because our senses are often blocked by spells caused by our conditioning, we need the help of the sage to find the inner truth until such time as we have liberated our senses. See page 571 glossary, the senses. Finding the inner truth requires that we ask the sage for a hexagram and then clarify its meaning with the help of the RTCM until we have reached an adequate understanding of the situation. The cow is a metaphor for a person's common sense. Care of the cow means to recognize the true function of all the senses and to free them from the spells and poison arrows that are put upon them when we dismiss or denigrate their value and give preponderance instead to the two outer senses of seeing and hearing. All the inner senses have figurative components that, together, tell the truth about a situation. Our nose, for example, wrinkles involuntarily when something is foul. We also need to consciously affirm the neglected senses by saying the emphatic inner yes to them that will restore them to their proper place in our personalities. Firm attachment to what is correct counsels a person to firmly attach himself to following the inner truth he has discovered about the situation and not allow himself to be drawn away from it by arguments that point to so-called obvious truths or absolute truths, which stipulate what he is supposed to think and attach himself to. This hexagram also concerns false attachments a person may have, whether they are to an idea, a belief, a person, a self-image, possessions, his nationality, race, family, or to a desire, a pact, a promise, or to a goal. All false attachment has its origin in the adoption of rigid beliefs promoted by the collective ego. These beliefs are often exalted as ancient wisdom or established truths that we are not permitted to question. Behind false attachment is the ego's fear of loss. See the glossary on loss. This fear leads the person to attaching himself to things, or it drives him to the opposite extreme of making non-attachment a goal. Even beliefs that rigidly practice non-attachment as the measure of spiritual achievement are themselves a form of attachment. Clarity is lacking when we attach ourselves to the wrong things. A person may receive this hexagram when he is too attached to his appearance, name, class, background, tradition, etc. In all these cases, he lacks the clarity to see that it is the ego in him which is attached to them. Likewise, a person may receive this hexagram when he is not attached enough to what is correct, as to his cosmic virtues, or to his body because he considers it base or unattractive. Clarity is to see that his psyche and body are one, and that to hate or disregard any part of it is to invite its abuse and injury. The same applies when a person puts aside his integrity, dignity, modesty, and sense of what is correct in exchange for egotistical gains. Another aspect of clarity has to do with the difference between acting from faith, which is a sort of attaching ourselves to something we want to believe is true, and acting from what we have learned through our experience in consulting the sage. I'm going to say that again. Another aspect of clarity has to do with the difference between acting from faith, which is a sort of attaching ourselves to something we want to believe as true, and acting from what we have learned through our experience in consulting the sage. In the former case, we put ourselves out on a limb and saw it off to prove that what we believe is true. When we find ourselves fallen on the ground, the ego justifies our belief by saying, we failed to have enough faith. In learning from the sage, we recognize the cosmic principles as true because they fit the practicability and uniqueness of the situation. These are never absolute truths, but are guidelines for relating to situations within the cosmic harmony. Receiving this hexagram can also call attention to a person's looking to another for help rather than asking for help from the helpers. The lines. Line 1. Moving with confused steps, but if one is sincere, there is no blame. The, li- the line indicates a situation in which a person, upon consulting the sage, does not know how to interpret the counsel given. He therefore moves uncertainly. He would like to let go of his beliefs, but still feels a security in the attachment he has to them. No blame is saying that if he puts his established belief aside, he will be protected by the cosmos, even if he makes a mistake. His sincerity will bring cosmic protection against the ill consequences of making mistakes. The uncertainty addressed above may also be due to feelings of guilt for abandoning an established belief. Guilt is built into the collective ego's program to keep him attached to its beliefs. He needs to treat guilt as a spell that the collective ego has put on him. See deprogramming guilt. Receiving this line can also mean that what a person has learned from the sage in a previous lesson was a handhold, and that he needs to give the sage space to expand his understanding. I got line 1 today. Line 2. Yellow light, supreme success. Line 2. Yellow light refers to the way the common sense shows us the relative truth of things, and thus produces in us a just and moderate view of them. This light is produced by the consensus of all the senses, which includes inner truth. Because the clarity produced is in harmony with the cosmos, it leads to supreme success. The yellow light of clarity contrasts with the harsh white light of judgment that comes purely from the intellect and from applying absolute standards. This judgment is based purely on the appearance of things and is expressed in terms of a person or thing being good or evil. Related to this way of judging is the mistaken idea of there being a culprit or guilty party. For a better understanding of the problems this causes, see page 564, Good and Evil and Culprit. When people or things are described in words that falsely imply the existence of a natural opposition, such as black or white, good or evil, culprit or victim, demonic energies are created. The use of such words creates and maintains the demonic sphere of consciousness. Opposites do not exist within the cosmic reality. because the cosmos operates only through the attraction that exists between its complementary aspects. I'm going to say it again. Opposites do not exist within the cosmic reality because the cosmos operates only through the attraction that exists between its complementary aspects. I'm going to highlight that when I come back to it. When a person calls another a culprit, he creates a negative attachment between himself and that person that becomes a fate for both of them. So long as the acceptance of that judgment exists, such judgments need to be treated as projections and spells. Supreme success describes the effect of saying the inner no to everything that is disharmonious, as one might say no to a child who has misbehaved. When, however, the inner no is said with harsh feelings attached to it, only further opposition is created. I'll come back to that too. Line 3. In the light of the setting sun, men either beat the pot and sing, or loudly bewail the approach of old age, misfortune. Line 3. The light of the setting sun refers to a person seeing his life in a body from his point on as being all downhill. Death is the spectre at the end of the descent, and endless chasm that awaits. Such an idea has no cosmic basis. A person can receive this line when he has already given up on the possibility of his life succeeding in a harmonious and meaningful way. He imagines that it is too late to correct things and may have even lost his will to live. He does not realize that there is always the possibility of making a new beginning with the help of the sage. Even if there is only the smallest ember of chi energy giving life to his existence, it is possible to reinvigorate his supply of life force. What this requires is his willingness to take his correct place in the cosmic whole and to make the effort to free himself from his mistaken beliefs about life and death. See glossary death. He also needs to deprogram any preconceived images and beliefs about old age, that it is accompanied by sickness, debilitating disease, suffering, the onset of deafness, blindness, helplessness, etc. Since every belief about what might happen projects itself into reality. Line 4. Its coming is sudden. It flames up, dies down, is thrown away. Line 4. The straw fire that flames up, dies down, and is thrown away can refer to glimpses of clarity that a person attains through his learning with the sage. Because he does not inquire further, his understanding is only partial, and therefore he jumps to the false conclusion that what the sage has said was not true. Receiving this line can also indicate the presence of seed phrases that discredit the good results achieved through inner effort, such as, "It cannot be as easy as that," in reference to saying the inner no. "Anything worthwhile is difficult," or "No pain, no gain," or "For such a process, one needs a human guide." It flames up, flames down, is thrown away, describes the way enlightened ideas coming from human masters fail, because they have no substance for the person who follows them. The reason is that they keep him from consulting his own inner truth. When a person consults his inner truth, his insights are the product of his connection with the cosmic consciousness. These insights have substance in that they manifest in the harmonious way his life succeeds, in the fact that they are supported by all the cosmic helpers, and in the fact that they create in him a true inner dependence and self-worth. Line 5. Tears in flood, sighing and lamenting, good fortune. Line 5. Tears in floods, sighing and lamenting can indicate a self-blame spell a person has put on himself after realizing that he has been following the mistaken belief that one must accept adversity. He may even have been convinced that adversity is part of life and that accepting it made him a good person. Having given up this belief is the first step toward good fortune. The second step requires only that he rid himself of his self blame spell for having so valiantly followed the wrong belief. See deprogramming procedure. Tears in floods, as in prolonged mourning, comes from the belief that death is the enemy of human existence. The person who believes this gives power to death by raising it as an active spectre in his life. He needs to rid himself of seed phrases such as, death is human fate, or death is lamentable. Since these phrases form spells, the same applies to the image of death as a reaper. See deprogramming procedure. Line 6. The king uses him to march forth and chastise. Then it is best to kill the leaders and take captive the followers. No blame. The king referred to is the sage. The line informs a person that he is meant to be helped by the sage in correcting the abuses of others through saying the inner no to their inappropriate actions and intentions, and though not participating himself in the evil being done. Killing the leaders instead of the followers refers to saying the inner no to the central idea that is responsible for the problem. Deprogramming the central idea enables the helpers to take captive the followers, its supporting rationales, and render them harmless. This line also calls our attention to times when it is unavoidable to relate to people who, through allowing themselves to be completely dominated by the ego, have exhausted their life energy, so that they are among the walking dead. Such people have totally separated themselves from the cosmic whole through turning their wills over to the collective ego. Their bodies live on by the fact that the ego in them steals the life energy of others. I'll say that again. Their bodies live on by the fact that the egos in them steal the life energy of others. The ego achieves this through gaining the pity, sympathy, and compassion of these others, or through making them feel indebted, guilty, or otherwise obligated to pay attention to them. When a person realizes through using the RTCM that he is being drained of chi energy in this way, he needs to be inwardly disconnected and neutral in the presence of such people to prevent giving them his energy. It is also important that he not view them as culprits, as that too would give them energy. Because the sage is in the presence of every person, it is helpful to ask the sage to call in the cosmic army to kill the demonic elements that have taken their bodies to revive their true selves. Definitely one of my favorite hexagrams. Favorite, even though I've only been reading this book for a couple of months now. And this hexagram, my reflections, just to note, these are my reflections. So if you don't want to listen to them, you can turn it off or skip. I got this on the 12th of March, 31st of March, and today, 25th of April, 2025, line 1. And I'm pretty sure in one of those other versions in March, I got line 6 because it's all highlighted. And what this brings to me in the context especially of line 1 is, like, over the last couple of months while I've been saying the inner no and saying the inner no to organizations and the energy within organizations, and just allowing what's behind the veil at the atomic level just to do whatever needs to be done to bring it in back into the cosmic harmony. I don't know what that is specifically, but I know through my common sense that some things are just inherently incorrect. And I say no to them say no to them. One example right now is the ATO, the tax department, where what I'm seeing right now from GST to personal tax is that it's not correct. There's something incorrect about tax. There's something incorrect about government taking money from those that create. My own thoughts of this, even though it's probably the ego coming in here, is that if a government needs revenue and it should generate it from its own utility, you be profitable. You use whatever natural resources that you need. You do it. You know, you create you create the fertile soil to grow, instead of instead of leaving it up to the people that are exchanging their time, their life force for a paycheck, and then taking a cut of that. And for me, what I find that is entitlement, and they'll be talking about entitlement in this particular hexagram. So for me, I know I'm going to come up against people saying, John, you have to pay tax. It's your duty to pay tax. Is it? Who says? Who says? And then for me, I'll walk that road, allowing whatever comes to come. And I have trust in my common sense that by me doing what I'm doing, I'm going to be protected by the cosmic whole, whatever that looks like, whatever other doors it'll open or close, or I trust that. So that was my line 1. And then in line 2 here, what stood out to me was opposites do not exist within the cosmic reality, because the cosmos operates only through the attraction that exists between its complementary aspects. And this is what I see when I'm helping someone find true love. I help them find the love within themselves. And then the genuine love is naturally whoever the partner that they find naturally complements their life. Because love is the fundamental force of attraction. Attraction is love. And when I say love, you can go into your head and go into all the Greek definitions of love. But when I speak it, what appears in your body, because I'm speaking with a resonance, a resonance, a frequency, and a tone that will awaken your body or activate your body to what true love is. Whenever there is an opposite and we try and make an opposite work, what I've in the context of the relationship space is we try and find the love languages. We try and find the attachment theory. We try and do masculine and feminine polarity. We try all these other things to attempt to make the relationship work. But at the fundamental root, that the an individual is out of harmony within themselves. So in that disharmony, you attract someone with the same disharmony and you try and make it work. It's like trying to push two negative magnets together. Like I've got magnets up here on my shelf. So I can't, the two neodymium magnets, I can't put two south poles together, right? Because they want to ricochet away. Can't put two north poles together because they ricochet away. But if I put you hear it snapping together there, a north and a south together, attraction, right? So in that, they're complementary. Like they're separated from the whole, which is the fascinating thing about magnets. As soon as you break one in 2 or 3 or 4, each fragment gets its own pole. Isn't that trippy? Right? Each fragment gets its own hole. So as soon as you separate it, it automatically creates a pole. So, for example, a giant. If I just had a magnet like this, as soon as and it was a north and south. As soon as I cut it in half, that would get a north and south, and that would get a north and south. So I love it. Like magnets are the perfect example of the true love. What else is here? However, the inner no is said with harsh feelings attached to it, only further opposition is created. This is in the context of the 5 personality patterns, is being able to discern, is your no grounded and neutral, or is it charged with fear? Is it charged with fear? Okay. And when you're first learning how to do this, your no can be charged with fear or entitlement. Okay. Can be charged with both. So usually the leaving pattern holds a lot of fear in their no. The merging pattern holds a lot of entitlement in their no. The endurer is unsure about their no. The aggressive pattern is in self-righteous in their no. And the rigid has to reference their no, because they'll go into their head and try and justify, well, is this no necessary? Well, if I stop paying tax, then what happens if everybody stops paying tax? What'll happen? It's like, yeah, the rigid is obsessed about avoiding the chaos. They want to keep it neat, tidy, and contained. Little boxes. Everybody just does their bit. The planet's going to be a great place. If everybody recycled, it would be great. If everybody did this, it would be great. Okay. The rigid survival pattern is about conformity. They don't because they can't have fun themselves. They can't break out of their shell without drinking or taking a psychedelic or something else. Right? The rigid loves conformity. They might present as individual, but they're just copying something else. They're copying what somebody else is doing because they look successful or they do a thing. For example, rigids love wearing suits and uniforms because it makes them associated with a tribe, and they have this collective agreement that, oh, I'm part of this tribe. I wear suits. I'm professional. Oh, yeah. What happens when you come home, or in the film industry, when I used to work in the film industry, you come home and do a line of cocaine, right? How's that for group ownership, right? Okay. What else is in here? Killing the leaders instead of the followers refers to saying the inner no to the central idea that is responsible for the problem. And while do I speak to this? Yeah. Look, if you're watching this, I assume and I think that you are relatively in tune with what's going on in the world. And there's an incredible power and responsibility that comes from when you start saying no, the inner no, to institutions and practices and people that you feel like are outside of cosmic harmony. And if you say no to these institutions, people, and organizations with a solid inner no, then it also grants you access to the other person's inner sage. And what becomes available here is you can communicate from your sage to the other person's sage and say, hey, what's going on here? Like, are you able to, if it's within the cosmic harmony, speak to this person and bring them into their wholest selves? Can you speak to what's going on for them and bring them into alignment with what is cosmic harmony? What is the cosmic whole? And I've been doing this for a couple of months now. And globally, with the help of the helpers and just what's already in motion, well, be mindful of not trying to take credit for this, because it's not my work, and it's work that I've been complementing in. Is that the world can turn from the inner place, and it's quite counterintuitive, counterproductive, or counter to what's been shown to you as a child. Is that I know you have to take outer action in order to make a difference in the world. It's like, no, you actually don't. Actually, a lot of the work can be done in the humble corners of your house and when you're walking through nature. Even just saying no to your own ego for 3 minutes creates profound changes in your life. I don't know, this has happened for me. It's like my voice changes, my posture changes, my presence shifts. And a lot of this work is about presence, because in the context of the 5 personality patterns, when you go into overwhelm, you're outside of presence. And when you're outside of presence, the ego can have a field day. The ego loves it when you're outside of presence, because it knows that it's at the wheel. And then it can collude with other people to make sure that you become a battery for somebody else's ego. And that's what I see in a lot of the personal development world. That's what I see in a lot of the political arena and institutions that emphasize hierarchy and don't look at like synarchy or allowing people to speak their truth or be transparent and honest. And there's a distinction here between vulnerability and honesty. Honesty is so much more potent than vulnerability because honesty also carries the edge of inner truth. Vulnerability can be a mushy mess which people wade about in. So here, to identify the walking dead, you only really need to look at how their body moves, their eyes, the way they speak, and you might know some walking dead in your life right now. Like they might see that they're the life of the party, or they might be having great success, but you can just tell that they're not they're not here anymore. They're husks. And in that, the pity, sympathy, and compassion for these people, or through guilt or making them feel indebted, guilty, otherwise obligated to pay attention to them, feeds their ego. So for me, like, and how I am and how I feel is that keeping all those feelings there and knowing when to pull back. Because if I'm talking to someone who's the walking dead, compassion just naturally bubbles up for me. It's like, yeah, because that's the empathy piece for me. It's like, yeah, man, it sucks. I've been having these problems for years and this and that, and my family, my kids, and the money and job. It's like, yeah. But I love this guy. I love listening to Joe Dispenza or Tony Robbins or going to Landmark um, or Eckhart Tolle. And while all of those technologies and those practices and those things can give benefits to people, what I've found in my experience with the people that come to work with me who have done all of that stuff is that they just feel more exhausted and their relationships do not work. If your relationships are not working, it's a fundamental indicator that something in your life is not complementary. It can be belief system, spell, poison arrow, all that stuff, right? So I use the RTCM to find out who's draining my chi. It can be anyone in my life, absolutely anyone. And then calling in the cosmic army to kill the demonic elements. That was something that was new to me because for me, I wouldn't say that I'm a pacifist, but I'd say that I'd use violence, even spiritually, sparingly when it's required. But then now that I've come to see what the ego is, it's evil. Like it is evil. Evil in a way, the voice that sometimes talks you into wanting to kill yourself or visualize someone in your life like being killed horribly, or you save them, or you feel that feeling of them being killed horribly. That's the ego. That's the demonic elements that come through the ego. Isn't that evil? It's evil, right? So for me, I have no hesitation now to call in the cosmic army to kill whatever those demonic elements are, because there's a distinction between the animal body and the primal part of us that would, like, for example, for a mama bear, like a mother protecting her kids, that would tear limb from bone or bone from limb, and a father who would step in to assert his authority in the face of threat to his children, if he chooses to. There can be an self-image associated with that. Always protecting your kids. It's like, no, actually, sometimes they do need to feel their own fates. So calling in the cosmic army to kill those demonic elements. And in that, you can bring anybody back from the brink if it's within alignment. So getting attached to the outcome and watching to see if this person changes also keeps the helpers back. So for me, after I've done some I Ching work, I'll go do something completely unrelated. Go play a game, go for a walk, go read a book, go play with my son, go hang out with Cass, Those things make a big difference in knowing when to separate, because there's this work, and it's easy work, right? And also being mindful in when you're speaking to somebody else's, saying in a note to somebody else, watching for the culprit or guilty party piece, knowing that, oh, it's this person's fault. Actually, it's not necessarily that person's in their own body's fault. It's the ego. It's the ego that's operating through him, right? And even the ego is not a culprit or guilty party. So learning these finer distinctions can really help you navigate this thing that's going on. And if you're listening to this, I think you're going to be well prepared for what's coming up next. Even though you don't need to plan for it, there's something that's coming through that people are going to want a deep grounding in spirituality for. And I think a lot of people are going to run to mainstream religion because that's what happens. Um, what's everybody else doing? Cool, I'll go do that. Instead of realizing that the vehicle, the being, the body that you are in, is so gifted with all these things, all these abilities, these common senses, the smell, the touch, the taste, making sure that you are nurturing those, okay, that you do go out and take time to smell the roses. When I'm walking in nature, like I see a plant that I want to smell, I just grab it, crumble up a leaf, and breathe in its chi, breathe in its energy. Oh, wow, I can just smell like whether it's lavender or mint or some eucalyptus or some other random tree that just smells like grass. You still do it, right? And this is what it means for me, in particular, to live life, the joy of life. Life wants to gift to you all the things. And like in that last hexagram, sometimes we miss out on what we have already. What did I do yesterday? I think it was hexagrams. Flicking through my notes, I think it was 5, right? We have all the things that we need when we're sincere. We're fully resourced at such a deep level, and it's the ego that convinces us that we're not, and then we project that into reality. And then we're running around trying to get things sorted that actually might not even need to be sorted. If it's not easeful and graceful, maybe it's not for you. Maybe there's another way, right? And learning how to trust that and step through that is part of what this hexagram is speaking about. Thinking and feeling. You got to feel it. You got to feel it as well as thinking. And taking the time, energy, and presence to do that is what I think this hexagram is communicating to me. It's like, cool, take some time out. I've got to make a few videos today. Cool. Take some time out between them. Maybe I don't need to make them. Maybe after this, I'll just go out there and start playing with Cassie and Luke, and that'll be it for the day. So, through that, all my love, thank you so much for listening to my contemplations, and I'll see you in the next one.